things I want to send a message out is to reassure all of our community members and people living in Ellis County and Waxahachie, just generally in Baylor being part of that, and just the general doctors that are around. We've been preparing for this now for over 6 weeks. We have done a lot of drills from nursing staff, physicians, people who provide meals in the hospital, cafeteria. Everyone at every level has been preparing for this. I'll give you a few examples. The ventilator that the talk is about a lot. We've scaled up our ventilator capacity from about 6, 8 to almost 60. So we've gone up to about 7-8 folds increase in our ventilator capacity. There is a talk that we have to isolate these patients, right? That's also a big consideration. So from having generally 2 rooms, 3 rooms in the ICU, which were isolated, dedicated rooms, we've gone to now almost 60 rooms that we can do negative pressure isolation. So that's a scale up to its max capacity. The doctors who were practicing at different places, I can speak to on behalf of the ICU team, we were doing outpatient practice and we stopped all outpatient activities. And all of the teams have been on high alert and on standby to come in and report on a daily basis, see what's happening on the floor, on the ICU, looking at ground realities and checking what sort of patients are we seeing. The nurses the same. We called in all the nurses that some had left, some were doing outpatient daily routine activities. All of the ICU nurses have been called back in. So we've been preparing, and I think the administration in general, the staff members, the doctors, nurses, and the other allied professionals have all done a fantastic job. We're very, very ready here.
So the hospital is well prepared. How do you feel like the community is, and do you feel like there are things that we could be doing to be better prepared?
I think that's a brilliant question. This virus is going to come from the community, right? Mm-hmm. And if we got to prevent it from spreading, and the only way we can do that is bring as much awareness we can in the community. We all have to first acknowledge, like you said, the threat is real. And once we appreciate that and we say, yes, it is real, then we've got to prepare. Now, America is never gonna be the America it was before. We're gonna have to incorporate this in our genes, that from now on, we're always gonna come out in the morning and think about it. And when we wake up, for example, we're gonna prepare our mind that we're gonna have to make COVID adjustments in our lifestyle. And this is gonna stay many months, if not years. So that attitude that this disease struck us, it was like a war or is a war. Mm-hmm. It may come back again, the threat is real. And if we lower our guards, we're gonna be in trouble. And when it does strike us, and we've seen thousands and thousands of American lives lost, and not just American lives, but there have been lives lost in the world, just generally. It begs the question that not just in America we're going to change our lifestyle, but just worldwide we're going to have different attitudes towards pandemic. Because pandemics is something that you're only going to see once in a lifetime, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's how it is. But it is going to have big bearings on us. The community in general now, we've seen a lot of good things out there, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen stores preparing. A lot of places have enforced social distancing, which is very, very critical. Some stores have gone on to the extent to say, hey, we're going to draw some lines, we're going to enforce distance amongst us. Others have put in hand sanitizers, for example, or wash your hands, or if you're going in a store, use this wipe to clean everything. Others need to be even more vigilant about it, especially if you have elderly, vulnerable community members. Because it's really, at the end of the day, we know that it's not gonna kill everyone.
Mhm.
But those who are very, very vulnerable, those are the ones we gotta protect. So we have a responsibility. It's not just about, Julie, me and you. It's about who we're gonna protect. And those are our elderly people, those people who are on medications. Some of them don't even know they're immunocompromised in a way, because they never sort of looked at their immunity, analyzed that. And going forward, COVID has raised a lot of questions. Why is it that certain people are dying? Why are certain are not? Now, we know elderly are a little bit more compromised. But why then are we seeing deaths in younger patients? And so it's gonna beg a lot of questions. And as a community and as individuals, we have to educate not only ourselves, but the ones around us who are not ready for that change, even after seeing so much devastation.
Right. You know, something I've seen come up quite a bit, I see a lot of people posting saying, you know, the flu kills so many people every year, and that's, everyone's making a big deal about this, but the flu killed X amount of people last year. Why are we making such a big deal about COVID-19? What would you say to those people?
First of all, I get upset a little bit inside. I feel frustrated because if they walk with me one day in the ICU, they would never say that again.
Mm-hmm.
Flu does kill, there's no question, but this disease kills in a different way. When you see young 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, and sometimes elderly people, your loved ones, in the ICU, and you're seeing such a dramatic, fast deterioration of their lungs, their kidneys, and their immune system, their clotting system, you begin to wonder, no, this is not flu, this is something different. This is a true pandemic going across the board, affecting every human being. It doesn't matter what color you are, what race you are, what age you are, it kills. So it's a bit frustration. But the other thing we've seen, that this is a new disease. This is a new pathology. We don't know, first of all, what its morphology is. Then we don't know what the different type of strains it has. We don't even know properly the full scale of who it's gonna affect. And then we don't have any good treatment against it. There is no vaccine yet. And forget about the vaccine, which is gonna come down the road, and you know, hopefully we'll have our researchers working on it. We don't even have a good testing measure right now. And it's not easy to get tested. So I don't even know myself, have I got the antibodies? Have I been exposed? And have I got the antibodies, and who I can affect? So this is nothing like flu. Flu, we've been prepared for years. We knew about flu, back when we were even little. And we've been modifying our approach to it. And we're making flu mandatory to be tested. This is a new hit.
And you're seeing personally people in their, not just elderly people, but you're seeing people in their 40s, and it's affecting them, it's not affecting them just mildly, it's really taking over their bodies, right?
That's absolutely correct. Even in Ellis County, our locals, we've seen disease in 30 years old, 20 years old, late 20s, 30s. We have 48, 49, 50-year-old.
And how does it affect them? Is it affecting them the same? I mean, is it really taking over and affecting them?
Absolutely. It takes over to the extent where we have to intubate, meaning put a tube in their lungs to support oxygen in the lungs to get across it to their bodies.
For young people.
We're talking about very young people, yes. It's across the board right now. Maybe the incidence is a little bit less in younger people, but that doesn't mean they're not invincible. They're not, they could be, their immune system could be compromised for a number of things. Smoking, vaping, lack of exercise, just sedentary lifestyle. So how many of you sometimes you see and you say, well, gosh, are you really that age? I mean, you could be a 28, 30-year-old and you look 40, 50, sometimes, pretty beyond your age.
I mean, not me, but yeah.
No.
Hey, you know what, man, this is such a good conversation. I hate to cut this off. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap this up on the radio right now, but like I said, we're going to continue. We have Sandy King in the room too. We're going to continue to have this conversation and keep asking some more questions. So please tune in to the Waxahachie Chamber of Commerce Facebook page, and we're going to dive into a little bit more deeper questions. And Dr. Khan, thank you so much for joining me on the radio today.
Julie, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you for the opportunity for being here.
All right, guys, we'll talk to you guys next week. Join us on Facebook. Okay,
Very nice.
So we're still recording, right?
Yeah, so we're still recording. We'll just keep this going for our Facebook Live. We'll air this either Thursday afternoon or Friday morning, depending. So we had talked a little bit about just some specific myths that kind of have floated around in the last few months that we've seen. And I know you're heavy into treating patients, so you probably don't see a lot of the conversations that go on outside of the hospital. And there's a lot of people, I think, that are starting to believe they may have had it. They may have had this back in February. I know I personally got very sick in February. My grandson got very sick. Both of us went to the ER and were did not have a strep. We were negative for strep, negative for flu, but it was a sickness unlike I had ever experienced, and a lot of the similar symptoms seemed to be very respiratory, and it makes me think I have gotten it and recovered. What would you say to people that believe that also?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, and we see that, we hear that from a lot of friends and family members, and community members. Hey, doc, I think I've had it. I'm now invincible, and I've got the. I want to raise a very strong word of caution here. First of all, the only way we can know that you had the disease is if you get yourself tested with a specific type of test, which is where we detect your antibodies, and we look at a specific type of antibody. It's the coronavirus IgM or IgG surge, which we can do, right, test it. It's only then you know you've had it. There is no other way. And I was speaking to some of my other colleagues earlier. We, on a yearly basis, and for years have been fighting the virus. The virus and the bacteria and other infections have been with us for thousands of years. In fact, they've been here before us on planet Earth. We have adapted. We have been fighting them. We have inert immunity, where we know whenever a virus goes in us, some of them we fight, and in fact, some of them we keep because they are good for our immune system at times. They are good, they're living in us in our gastrointestinal tract, which is the GI tract, and they do good stuff there, believe it or not. It's that immunity. This is a new virus. This has found its way from another species, whether it's a bat or from a bat, and it was there before. It's found its way into the humans. This is new, so we're not ready for it in that way. We have symptoms. Anosmia is a symptom. For example, we described as loss of smell sensation. That's been associated a lot lately with the COVID-19 virus. That other than that specific, with a spectrum of other symptoms, you cannot really say that you've had it or not had it unless, like I said, you've been tested.
Yeah.
And if your test shows that you have the Ig antibodies against it, then okay, you're now immune. But like I was telling my fellow colleagues before, it doesn't mean a variant strain can affect you. that still can happen.
Like flu A, flu B, all the different choices of flu, strep A, isn't there strep A, strep B?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It finds its way to kind of mutate and continue fighting us.
That's why we think that this is gonna be around us for a while. And we don't know how it's gonna behave, but a big chance is it's gonna mutate. And if it does, we gotta be ready.
Would you say that, so speaking of the antibodies, say someone was tested and they do have the antibody, is that something that can be used to treat people in the future? Would that be part of a vaccine?
Very good question. So we're seeing, there's a treatment called the convalescent plasma, which means that once you've had those Ig antibodies, I can take blood out, separate the red blood cells from your plasma, extrapolate the Ig antibodies, and infuse them into a healthy being. So that's what we're experimenting on right now. What we're seeing in practice, that there is a category of patients who become very, very sick. That category has a viral surge, meaning the virus, when it goes into them, for some reason, multiplies very quickly, and its number increases up very dramatically. Their lungs fill because there's overwhelming viral infection in them. The kidneys can fill, and they have a poor prognosis. It is that group, we think, that if at that time they're on life support therapy, we give them an infusion, maybe it can calm down or fight the virus and suppress it, because we need a time to buy where the virus multiplication is halted. And if it is halted, maybe we can further suppress it with medication and give the body some time to fight inertly against it. So plasma has been experimented on those patients. And then there's other therapies that has been considered to fight the infection. So yes, it's something that is going to be more studied.
So it would be more used for acute care, not for a vaccine? Or both?
For now, probably.
So right now, we don't have a vaccine, right? But we're experimenting on generating vaccines from synthetic purpose. Generally, a vaccine comes from they experiment on animals and extrapolate it from pigs, or they extrapolate it from another horse or other animals, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean that the vaccine cannot come from another human? Of course it can, but we're not ready for the vaccine yet.
That's
We
so
don't
far down.
know. Yeah, it's
So far down the road.
it's very premature
Yeah.
right now to say, but we're definitely studying those patients. Or if you fought it better than I did or someone else did, we are studying to see why did you do that, and what sort of numbers and stats are coming out of it.
Yeah. Did you have a question? I interrupted you earlier, I felt like.
Oh, I just wanted to ask, for those people out there who are taking care of elderly parents, and maybe they're the only person who's available to take care of their parents, and their parents can't leave the house, what can they do?
Another very common question that we come across, and look, right now we know that for elderly parents, right, the best strategy is to keep them quarantined and away and isolated from all of this virus, right? We don't want them exposed. We don't want them to go near someone who has an infection, because we don't know how elderly are gonna react, but we do know that if they do get an infection, they are the most vulnerable, and the mortality rate is much higher in that population, without any question of doubt, right? Because maybe the virus loves their environment to grow in, and because a lot of our parents and elderly are on medication and are in a way immunosuppressed, or they're not active as
Or
other
sedentary lifestyle.
Exactly, they're not active, and they're not interacting with the community in that way. So strategy number one is have them isolated, have them away as much. Now, there are situations where our parents are in, for example, in nursing homes. They're in other community places where they can't look after themselves, right? And they are dependent on people providing them meals, providing them their oxygen, for example, providing them their medication. In that case, you gotta limit the contact. You can't go in, like I said, you have to change your mindset now, how we're gonna act in a society or a community. We gotta do the same thing. We can't go in and say, hey, I'm not feeling well today, I haven't had my temperature checked, I may be a carrier, and I'm gonna go in and hug my parent, or I'm gonna go and sit and have a chat and say, hey, Dad, how are you doing? Or maybe that's not the day to do that. Maybe there's a day to say, hey, Mom, I've got my stuff, I got your stuff here, it's in a basket, please clean it, use a hand sanitizer, whatever precautions, clean whatever I'm giving, and then use it. Don't just take my word for it.
Right.
And so if you have to go in and look after them, you do that. You take other precautions as well. You check your temperature yourself. If you do have a temperature, don't go near them. Send someone else. And even if you are going, wear a mask as a general precaution. Wear gloves.
Oh, I have to ask you this.
Yes.
This is something Sandy and I were talking about earlier. So we see people in the grocery store who have gloves on. They're pushing their baskets, they're scratching their faces, they're getting their wallets, they're doing all these different things. Please explain, and with masks too, they're putting bandanas on, or they're wearing snorkels or whatever. Can you explain to the community
Proper use.
and proper
of
use
medical equipment.
and in my opinion, like, why waste your time wearing gloves if you're going to touch everything and then, scratch your face or what, can you explain
Absolutely.
that?
Okay, so let me explain a couple of things. There are two types of masks, right? There is the surgical mask, which is the one that I'm wearing right now, and then you hear a lot about the N95 mask, right? So those are the basic two types of masks. The surgical mask and the ones we make home. If I put it on like this, I'm protecting 80%, 90% of the virus if I have a virus that I'm gonna shed. So I'm protecting other people with this mask. If I have an N95 on me, I'm protecting myself.
Really?
So that's how you're gonna think of it. These masks is basically avoid shedding. It does not protect you from a person who has, we were talking about earlier about how airborne and droplet precautions you take. We take them in the hospital. A droplet is like when you see a mist when someone's talking, but an airborne is in the air, right? We're still studying the virus. We know for sure it has a droplet tendency, but there's questions about can it spread through the air? That's being studied. But we know what works or doesn't work. The N95s work to protect yourself. These masks are basically protecting others.
What about all the cute masks people are taking and making out of fabric? Like if you took those scrubs and made a mask out of it, is that protection?
First of all, some protection is always better than no protection. Because even if I'm talking, right, there is some tendency for some of the organism, and if you have it in your pharynx at the back or the nose where it loves to stay, it can translocate out, right? Its incubation period, meaning how long it's gonna grow before it manifests, maybe in some 3 days. In others, it could be weeks. It could be 7 days. The 14 days is an arbitrary number. We think in some it may be even longer. So the aim here is to protect others first. This mask is going to prevent doing that task. Like I said, The same goes with the gloves pathology. If you're going, gloves should be thought of doing a specific task. I'm gonna use the trolley in Walmart. I put my gloves on, right? I go in, I use it, I put my things in the stuff, and then I come out and throw the gloves away.
Not in the
Okay.
parking lot on the ground.
Not there, right?
Yeah.
Not there. It's a
Ain't no there.
specific designated place. Right now, we don't know, but for now, secure them where you can properly, right? So that's a specific task. And then when you do that, you still wash your hands.
Mhm.
You still use the hand sanitizer or whatever you wanna do, right, to make sure. And absolutely, you shouldn't, the purpose of the mask is one, it prevents other getting infection, like I just said, but also it reminds you that you're not supposed to touch your hands or you're not supposed to touch your face, and avoid as much contact as you can. So, different type of roles for different things that we have.
I touch my face a lot. I have a lot of allergies and I'm constantly scratching my, and I'm very aware of it.
Uh-huh.
But what I think is, if I hand sanitize and then I touch my face, but I haven't touched anything else,
Yeah.
I'm safe. Like, that's my only
That's
justification
my
in my
place.
mind, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not just you, Julie. There's been studies out there that say, and on average, a human being in a day touches his face something between a 60-time touch a day, a 90-time toucher a day, and a 120-time toucher.
I'm 120.
Wow.
Right, so they study
Sounds
that.
like a lot.
Not only that, there are now some apps out there that remind you that are you at an adequate distance from
Oh.
others. So it records during the day how many times you came across with other people with violating your social distancing sort of parameters. So we're gonna see, hopefully, we're gonna see a lot of little things come up, and this is sort of studies like what can we do to help change our lifestyle that we've been talking about going forward. How are we gonna, how is it gonna get modified? That remains to be seen. But hopefully some good things will come out of it. Right.
Very interesting. I certainly appreciate your time. This has been very, very interesting.
Before we wrap up, is there anything that you guys need? You know, the community's been asking lots of questions like about gowns and gloves and, I mean, is there anything that you guys are lacking or you're in need of?
That's again a very good question. I think a couple of weeks ago, we had a shipment from one of the churches for about 20,000 masks to the
Wow.
hospital.
Wow.
That was a very morale boosting gesture.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
It's
Scott
okay.
Wilson.
Yeah, it's okay to give a shout out to that church, the Oaks
To the
Church.
Oaks. Good job, Oaks.
The Oaks Church,
No,
they're such great servants. They find ways.
we appreciate that a lot, and it just was, like I said, it just brought the morale up for the whole hospital, because we have been running low on PPEs and stuff. So anything you can contribute, it helps us a lot. Whether it's people volunteering to say, hey, we're gonna help you give meals to your elderly, give meals to the staff, bring some foods, bring some flowers, all of these little gestures from the community. And just the fact that you come along and say, you know what, we're here for you. We're standing right beside you. You need us, just call us. If you need beds or you need sheets or you need something, that's very, very encouraging for us. And we're in, the doctors and especially the nurses who are at the forefront of this, they need that. They need to hear that support right now, because guess what? If everyone's asked to stay home and they're asked to go and work and see those patients, we wake up every morning and pray to God that we can come back home without the disease.
And not bring it to your families.
And not bring it to our family. I mean, all of us have quarantined in a different sort of way. Some of them go home, they have to take their clothes off in the garage, they take a shower. It's a big change. Their food is separate, they have to take extra precautions, and above all, they can't hug or kiss their loved ones when they go home. So it's been a challenge, and these sort of gestures really help.
Yeah.
So is there anything you need that you don't have right now that you wanna tell the community? Is there anything that's lacking specifically?
Right now, I'd say we're in good shape,
Okay.
but absolutely, I'll let you guys know
Yeah.
if we need anything.
You spoke a little bit about it quickly, but I just want to hear from you. Tell us, is the morale good? Is the morale high for the nurses and the doctors, or is it still a tough environment?
Let me say this, it is a very tough environment. It's a very heightened, alert, vigilant, scary environment a little, but we are professionals. We know that this is a calling for us. And I have not seen any of the physicians or nurses say, we're gonna sit home and not come. They're all in it together.
Yeah.
So have a fantastic, I think, morale. It doesn't mean we're not scared.
Right.
But like I said before, it's you, the community,
Yeah.
who have come across and said just nice things and gestures and salutes or clapping or whatever. That makes a
Yes.
big difference.
You're
And
still
if there was
human.
any message I wanted to give, I'd say just send a thank you note to your nurse or your physician or whoever that is. Because in another way, that's what we think we're here for, right? We wanna serve, we wanna, no one wanted to come out from their homes, but yet the doctors and nurses, all of them, even with limited PPE, right?
Yep.
No one backed off from the
That's
duty.
right. That's
So
right.
I think it's a community doctor-nurse relationship that we wanna continue, and maybe it's a time sometimes, we take things for granted, right? We wanna appreciate the little things, and your local hospital or your local nurse or people or your pharmacist is something you wanna just say, hey, I wanna appreciate you, you know what? I just wanna do whatever I can do, clap,
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
do
absolutely.
whatever, do something that you could
Absolutely.
say, hey, this is just a gesture that we wanna pass on to you guys, and we appreciate what you do.
Love it, love it.
Yep.
Thank you again. Thank
It's-
you again for coming. I know Julie and I both have a call to be on at 10:30, so we wouldn't cut
And we
this
know
off
you
either,
don't
but
have
gosh.
anything else going on.
I know, we would just keep
Thank you for
going all
taking so
day.
much time.
Thank you for taking care of
It's
it.
my
Rebecca.
pleasure, and I love coming, talking to our community and stuff, and especially when Julie and
Yeah.
Susan, you call us, so
Yeah.
thank you for having me here, we
Well, when
appreciate
this
it.
is all over, we'll have you back to celebrate all the recoveries.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Thank
you,
Absolutely.
Dr. Khan.
Absolutely, thank you.